folks, we're going to get started with the Roblox workshop. So the title of this workshop is Game Development in the Metaverse. So just to get started and a little bit about myself, I'm Raymond Zeng. I am a former Roblox developer. I call myself former because I haven't really done much in the past couple of months. Event organizer, so I do things to organize events for other developers, workshops and things like that for them as well. I've done a brief stint in the YouTube space focusing on developer education, though I started off with like drama reporting and stuff like that, as you do. I did all right, actually. Hold on. I was reached out, and my name is actually on this book as a contributor, Roblox Game Development in 24 Hours. So this was a really cool project. I worked on writing a couple of chapters for this book and a couple of edits for other chapters. They invited me out to some of their conferences in San Francisco. That person on the bottom right there, that lovely older gentleman right there, he goes by the name on Roblox as Builderman. He also goes by David Bazuki. He's the CEO of Roblox. So yeah, it was really awesome to meet him. And yeah. So who, just out of curiosity, who here has actually heard of Roblox? All right, awesome. How many of you have actually been on Roblox just in general? All right, and in the past year? No? All right, this is gonna be amazing because I think one of the best things about Roblox nowadays is just like seeing the reactions and just like catching people up to like what Roblox is in the modern day. And I think that it's really cool like how the platform has transformed. So notably, Roblox is not a game. I think that there are a lot of people that make that sort of distinction, make that mistake of thinking that it's just like some game with mini games inside. And like to a certain extent, that is the model of it. But I think it makes more sense to think of it as Unity and Steam and I guess like Facebook or Instagram like bundled together. So it's a game engine, it's a publishing platform for those games that you build on their game engine, and a sort of social media thing. So in my opinion, I think that Roblox is probably the closest thing that we have to whatever we want to describe as a metaverse. I'm not sure if there's really a coherent definition for that at the moment. It seems like different engineers have different opinions on what actually is the metaverse. Most recently, I think the most exciting thing when, especially back then when in like about a year ago, when there was a lot more hype about the Roblox metaverse stuff, there was a ton of collaborations. So there was a collaboration with Gucci and Vans, as shown on the screen there. Bunch of other artists, Chainsmokers. I can't think of them off the top of my head. Lil Nas X, that was also a really big one. So they had virtual concerts on Roblox, and that was really cool. And I think what's really cool also is that we're starting to see some of these people who actually design assets and like clothing and items on Roblox actually start to get deals with these companies to produce those products in real life. So it's kind of like going the other way around, where virtual items are becoming physical product. So why care about Roblox, right? Because I mean, it's kind of, the metaverse hype is kind of dying down, and like it's like a smaller platform. Maybe you haven't heard much of it compared to the likes of Unity or like Unreal Engine, or even something like Godot, right? There is surprisingly a lot of money to be made here. So the figure is a little bit difficult to see, but in the fourth quarter reporting, there were about 58 million, I believe, daily active users on Roblox. Some of the most popular games on Roblox, on average, around 30 to 100,000 concurrent users on the daily. And I think what I love about Roblox especially is that for multiplayer, they just abstract a lot of the networking stuff out. So it's really, really simple to get stuff set up when it comes to multiplayer experiences. Even if you're not planning on becoming an indie developer and trying to make it big on Roblox, there are starting to be a decent number of studios, either backed by venture capitalists outside of the space or founded by people who have actually been on the platform for years and years, maybe even a decade at this point. They're starting to set up studios, they're starting to hire developers. So on the bottom there, that is the pay grade for an for a gameplay programmer for Uplift Games, they make one of the largest games on Roblox. And so you can see that they have their pay grade there. And even on Roblox, surprisingly, gameplay programmers still six-figure salaries for creating games on Roblox. And I'm not going to say that this is standard, mostly because I don't really know the pay grades for studios. I've had a couple figures thrown around and things like that, but it's even if you're not an indie developer on Roblox, I think that it is still possible to make enough to make a living, especially signing up with these studios, and especially with those studios that actively try to seek out like outside companies, like we said before, Gucci and Vans, in order to sort of build a virtual space for them. So now I'm gonna quickly go over Roblox game development. There's a lot to go over, and I just can't fit that all in the space of a 1-hour presentation. So let's talk about programming first, because that's the space that I'm the most comfortable with. So officially, Roblox supports a language called Lua. It is a weakly typed scripting language. I would say that if you worked with languages like Python, if you worked with languages like JavaScript, this is an easier transition for you, because a lot of the syntax and a lot of the sort of ideas are quite similar. I think one of the kind of interesting quirks about Lua, that I think, is that everything is in the terms of a table, or what we would consider a list vector of some sort. And so everything, even when you just start to build up like objects and things like that, everything is in terms of a table. And so that takes a little bit to get used to. One thing that I do like about Roblox is that a lot of their APIs and things like that, they have abstracted a lot of the complications out, so that like if you wanted to do something that's kind of common, that's fairly common, like say like you wanted to do something like I wanted to call this particular function when something in the game world happens, there's more likely than not some sort of event, some sort of way to sort of call that callback function whenever that particular event happens. And so all of these things on Roblox are also event driven. So like say like when a player dies, when they join the game, or you can even, if it doesn't have a particular use case, you can create your own events and hook it up like that. There have been some third-party support, and this is one of the weird things, because Roblox, in its like the vision of the Roblox company is that they want you to sort of build everything in-house, right? They want their engine to be the place where you build everything, from programming to 3D modeling, sound design, and everything. So like that's their end game. It's not quite there yet for a lot of developers. They're starting to have some version control, but it's still not as comfortable to use, I think, from a developer perspective, compared to something like Git, right? So there are plugins for Roblox Studio where it allows you to connect the game engine to VS Code, and then from there, there's a way it also translates like Lua files into the game, so it's like two-way syncing. And that way you're able to run with version control with Git and GitHub and like all that standard stuff, and just collaborate with other developers. There are also some more niche plugins. So on the bottom there, that is Roblox code written in Rust. So someone's decided in their infinite wisdom to create a Rust transpiler. So if you decide that you'd rather code Roblox games in Rust rather than Lua, then you have that option. And I think that there are some other cool things that you can do with that too. It's WebAssembly stuff that I don't quite understand myself. In terms of 3D modeling, it's probably simple. Admittedly, this and what's coming up next, UI, UX, and audio design is the areas where I don't have as much experience with. So I'm drawing on sort of my experiences talking with other game developers on the platform and things like that. In terms of artists, any tool where you can export in an OBJ or FBX file is supported. There is a really big caveat here, and it is the visual fidelity limit. And what I mean by that is that objects which have a triangle count of over 10,000 cannot be, as far as the last time I tried, cannot be directly imported onto the game engine. There's probably a lot of reasons why, but in terms of actually like going around that, there are a couple of options. So you can sort of break up your object into multiple objects and import them one by one. There's no limit as far as I know, unless you want to, I guess, like client limitations and crashing players. But there's no limitation to how many triangles you can fit within your game itself, just importing them. But one of the other sort of side effects, I guess, of that is that you could also just decrease the amount of visual fidelity of your objects that you're importing in. And that kind of lends itself to the art style, I guess, of Roblox even nowadays. It tends to lean more towards low poly kind of style, though there are people that sort of experiment with different things. Again, going back to sort of Roblox's overall vision of like, oh, we want you to put everything and like create everything in our engine. They're working on a terrain system, and they're working on a bunch of different other systems to sort of allow even people like me who aren't like super interested in like 3D modeling and like building terrain and things like that to work in the game engine in a very intuitive way in order to set up worlds that look pretty nice relatively quickly. And so I've just pulled up two sort of example screenshots here. The top one is what I guess on the platform would be considered a showcase game. These are generally sort of more artistic experiences where the less time is spent on sort of the gameplay aspect of it and more is just on building. And there are so many things that Roblox has done with lighting as well in the past couple of years that just make things look a lot nicer. And then on the bottom is a screenshot from one of the games that I created with a friend. This was one of the games that ended up winning, I think it was like most creative or something at one of the other hackathons that we attended a couple of years ago at this point. In terms of UI, UX, audio, and others, stuff like that can be directly imported. So images can be uploaded, music can be uploaded onto the game engine. I would say that the main pain point here is that uploaded assets have to go through moderation, being that Roblox is sort of, once it's on Roblox, well, with some privacy limitations and things like that, but realistically, once you put something on Roblox, it is available for everyone to, I guess, view or listen or just consume as media. And given that Roblox has an audience ranging from like 6-year-olds all the way up to parents, there are a lot of concerns about, I guess, like showing mature content and things like that to people who should not view that mature content. So everything on Roblox has to go through a moderation process. First, this takes time. So even though you might upload something, it might be minutes, hours, sometimes in the worst case scenario, maybe even days before it actually shows up in your game. So this might present a problem if you're kind of time crunching on a last minute update and things like that. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing is that the moderation isn't perfect. As far as I know, it's a combination of AI and human review. But humans make mistakes, AI has false positives, and so sometimes even things that aren't particularly like mature content might get moderated. So unlike somewhere where like if you were working on some just local game engine, a Unity, a Godot, what have you, where you just upload it and it's in the game, this is slightly different. It's the equivalent of, I guess, like creating a Twitter post or something like that. There's a lot of UI stuff. What I particularly enjoy is the tweening options that Roblox gives you for UI. I think it's really nice just to see all those little bouncy UI tricks that you can do. And like this is all just like a couple lines of code and like maybe even just like selecting something nowadays. But it's really cool to see like what they've done on the UI side as well. Actually, fun fact about this, for the longest time, for us Roblox developers, there was a problem with we wanted to create rounded UI, right? You think that this would be a fairly simple use case, but I guess it isn't. So the way that we used to go around it was that we would actually, there was a plugin that allowed you to turn UI like display like frames or like boxes into an image, and that image, because of the way that they set up the scaling and everything, would actually be rounded properly. I think about a year ago, they finally actually set up and deployed a way to set up how much you wanted to round your UI, and that was the best update in recent memory. And huge shout out to the Roblox team for actually getting that done. So now we don't have to do that. So things to keep an eye on, because Roblox being a platform, it's not particularly perfect. It has its own growing pains. And there are a lot of things to keep an eye on if you plan to try out either being an indie dev, maybe building up a career on Roblox if you decide to go that route, or if you just want to experiment on Roblox. Being a platform, that means that they have to pay their own bills for hosting and everything. So they take a cut of your in-game revenue. And this can be fairly steep once you actually crunch the numbers. So for example, generally, although this changes if you're buying less, $1, $1 roughly translates to 100 Robux in game. When you put something on sale, you earn 70% of that. So Roblox takes the other 30%. Sort of. We'll get to that. So now your 100 Robux has turned into 70 Robux that you actually earn. Now you decide that you want to actually cash this out. The official conversion rate, if you're converting from the Robux that you earn to US dollars back, is 0.35 cents per Robux. So in practicality, what that means is that you, for every dollar that is spent on your game, you are earning about 25 cents US. And this has been a pain point that has been asked at pretty much, well, I've only been to 2 of the developer conferences, but every single time that question has been asked of whether or not they plan to raise rates for developers. So like maybe increase that to like a whole cent per Robux, something like that, or some other way to do that. The current solution that Roblox is proposing is kind of interesting. And so I guess before we talk about that, a little bit of what I think is sort of the effect of this is that it sort of trains developers to push for more volume. So it's like we want more people to buy more on our platform. We want more players in general. I guess that would just be better in general. But it kind of promotes a model of monetization that more resembles something like a mobile Play Store. So like your Google Play Store or your iOS store, where there's a little bit more aggressive monetization rather than something like Steam. And this is a really big issue too, because as we'll get to in Discovery, there's a little bit of a bias against paid experiences and paid games on Roblox, which is also kind of another pain point. So the solution that Roblox has to this is, I don't remember their exact term for it, but essentially, rather than earning all of your Robux from in-game purchases, they're now encouraging something else. So now whenever a premium player, so someone that decides to purchase Roblox Premium, which if you've been in the space for a while is what replaced Builders Club, when they join your game, Roblox internally logs how much time that they spend on your game, regardless of whether they made a purchase or not. That playtime, that aggregate playtime, is compared against other experiences on the platform. And at the end of some term, I think it's month, maybe quarter, something like that, you will get a stipend from Roblox directly based on how many or how long premium players have spent on your game. This is a better solution because that means that you don't necessarily have to sort of aggressively monetize your experiences anymore. You can kind of try to focus on improving playtime at the same time, there have been some developers who would see this as like, okay, then we'll just cater towards premium players more, and we'll offer them benefits over like normal players, and that kind of creates a dilemma as well. But that's sort of the solution that Roblox is going with right now. I guess time will tell whether or not it's actually perfect. I unfortunately don't have the analytics from other game developers as to like how much of the revenue is coming from the premium payouts versus how much that they're earning from just direct purchases. So that's one of the issues that Roblox is and Roblox game developers are dealing with currently. Just the amount that they can earn. So like it's either like you have to just draw in a ton of players, or you just have like a really dedicated audience. The other thing is discovery on Roblox, and I think discovery on Roblox is really similar to sort of discovery on Twitch. If you've ever been on Twitch, you click on a category, you go in there, and previously, what would happen is that it's sorted by default by the number of viewers that are watching each live stream. And so realistically, someone who's been on the platform for a while will either go directly to the streamers that they know, or just find whoever's like on the top, maybe like 10 or 20 streams to watch, right? And so that kind of creates an imbalance. Roblox is kind of similar in that aspect where previously, it's a little bit better now, but previously the top sort, so when you go onto the game page, there are rows of different categories, and the top category used to be just most popular games. So the games that would have the most players would be at the front of the discovery page, which meant that players saw them more often, which means that players who are new would check them out more often. And so it kind of created this imbalance where smaller games didn't really have a chance to actually as much to really like get up on the searches. Now Roblox they're trying things with like AI and like recommending things. So like now the second sort is recommended for you. So I'm guessing that's some sort of AI thing to recommend me different games. Though the top sort is still most engaging, which I guess makes sense because it's not necessarily the player count, but just how long players are spending in the game. And I guess that's maybe they've determined internally that that's a pretty good metric for what makes a game good. There are ways technically around this. There's still a sort of advertising system that Roblox has available for you. So like you can choose. There's like the newer way and the older way. The older way is putting up banner ads because for some reason, if people who are playing Roblox decide not to have an ad block, I guess they'll see your game, your advertisement for your game, or your group or whatever you're deciding to advertise there. The newer way is kind of like if you've been on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, or something like that, and you're scrolling through and you suddenly see an ad. That's sort of what Roblox does, where they'll place a sponsored game in the middle of all these other actual games that are in their proper place in the sort. This is slowly getting better, but I think the main thing that a lot of developers are doing to sort of kickstart their game is just reaching out to influencers. So influencer marketing is still a pretty big thing on Roblox. And it's not necessarily like, oh, we'll pay you like 10 grand US. And like you'll give us like a 60-second, like it's not like a trade coffee or a Manscaped or whatever those other ad placements are nowadays. It's more they'll just make a video on your game. And so in place of that, it's less of paying the money directly, but oftentimes you can just approach an influencer and be like, hey, I added you like as an item in my game or something like that, or like I've added something, right, like a promotion code in my game, like based off of your name, to give some free in-game currency and things like that. And maybe they'll play your game. And that's sort of the thing where if you have these influencers who have like tens of thousands of viewers, maybe you'll get like a couple hundred viewers, a couple hundred players in your game, and that might kickstart thing, like the cycle. And I guess on Roblox, it's a little bit more difficult because it kind of gears towards multiplayer experiences, right? And so it's like, if you're just starting out, you have a problem of you don't have enough players in your game, so it's not fun. So the players leave. So then you don't have enough players to actually draw in more players to make the game actually fun. So it's like you got to get players somewhere, right? And so influencer marketing is one of the, I would say, the bigger ways to get players at the current moment. Roblox is working on improving their search and discovery stuff. I'm assuming that it's getting better over time. And from what I've experienced, it seems like there are a lot of like smaller games that are just getting closer, or like getting more of a chance to sort of show their quality on the platform. I guess the last thing for now is that Roblox is functionally mobile first. Although Roblox started out as a PC sort of platform, I can't remember off the top of my head whether or not the metrics have updated, but I think from what I last saw, it was about 60 to 80% of Roblox players are actually on mobile. And mobile meaning every sort of device, like from like last generation, like maybe like 3 or 4 generations ago, like iPhone, to like cutting edge like Samsung S21 Ultra or whatever, right? And so this also lends to sort of really strict performance constraints, meaning that you may not necessarily have the option to build these like huge, beautiful worlds, and your code might need to be a little bit more optimized. I guess that's where the event-driven nature of the code comes in. But I think generally it's kind of crazy, like stepping back and like seeing these AAA games require like tons and tons of RAM, and then it's like on Roblox, it's like, oh yeah, they recommend you to not go over like 500 megabytes of RAM usage. It's just like, okay. But yeah, so there is room for these sort of premium, high visual fidelity, paid experiences that would sort of match what is available out there in the AAA space. And Roblox, I think the engine is good enough that it can support something like that. But I think in terms of mass popularity on the platform, we haven't really seen an example of that, though they are trying. So Roblox recently launched a new thing called the Game Fund, where it's basically their own venture capital firm, where it's like, if you can build a game that sort of matches our vision and sort of pushes the boundaries of the platform, like we'll give you like at minimum 250,000 US to start and like just kickstart your game studio. And some of the projects that are coming out from that are like actually really cool, and stuff that actually like stuff that you wouldn't normally see on the platform if it didn't have that amount of investment. So I think that's really cool. Anyways, I guess with that, I am going to jump to the live demo part of this. This is probably going to be fairly short, primarily because this is a little bit of a jank setup where I'm remote connectioning into my Linux desktop machine. I guess the third caveat, if you're coming from a different game engine and you want to try Roblox out, is that Roblox is not officially supported on Linux. So there are ways to get around it. You can use an emulator in order to actually get around that and use Roblox Studio or play Roblox on a Linux machine. So let me go ahead and pause the share right now. And you share. Let me see if I can. Okay. And I think this is it. Am I able to move around? Okay. This is, I'm not sure this, okay. It is just really, really slow. I'm not sure if this is actually going to work then, because the mouse inputs are just not as responsive as I imagined. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that in terms of no live demo for now, because the remote desktop connection is just, the mouse inputs are not. Yeah, there's so much delay there. Okay. Let me see if I can actually run this. Oop, I did not mean to. Oh. Let's see if I can shift. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess this is, yeah, it's not responsive enough for me to really do much here. I guess what I will share, I think this shouldn't be too, it's a short demo, but so for example, like one of the things that I talked about before was sort of Roblox's vision of like having everything in house, and so like 3D modeling and things like that. That's another thing that they're sort of working on. And so let me see if this works. So we have a brick over there that is in sort of a translucent kind of red shape, and I have a sort of concrete sort of cylinder there. What I'm going to do is, if I'm able to actually click on both of them, highlight both of them, or just give the remote connection a bit of time. Go over to the model screen. This is going to take quite some time. And what I'm going to do is sort of what Roblox calls their union system. It's sort of their sort of 3D modeling where you can mash together primitive shapes, so like cubes and like rectangles and cylinders together. You can either combine them to make more complex shapes, or you can negate them to make sort of cut into different shapes. Let me see if this actually will play out. And yeah, okay, cool. That actually worked. So as you can see, that pink reddish brick sort of disappeared, and now that cylinder has that same shape sort of cut out of it. So that's one of the ways that sort of Roblox has is trying to sort of build towards like a solution where, oh, like you can just have things like built inside our own engine without having to switch over to like a Blender or something like that. They're also working on adding like custom materials and things like that. And for the longest time, it was on the platform, it was like, oh, well, like you have all this fancy like 3D modeling stuff, but you don't necessarily have the texture support for us. But now they're working on this, on the new materials to make it a lot easier for developers to actually work on building things out on their platform. Let me see if this works. So I have and it might not show up the easiest on this screen, but I have just a quick demonstration of sort of the Roblox physics kind of thing. So on the top there, I have a flat surface, and under that I have a cube, I guess a rectangular prism. That is connected via a spring, and the spring is one of the sort of basic things that you can just attach to any two surfaces. And there are a bunch of different properties you can configure on it, like the length of the spring, how many coils it has, how tight it is, and you can just attach this between any two pieces, and just have it work as if with very little effort. So let me see if I can actually just run this simulation. I hope. I would not recommend, if you're on a Linux machine, unfortunately, even with the emulation layer, I would not recommend you to actually, Roblox is not built to be emulated, I guess, at the current moment. And it's one of the things that other developers have asked about in terms of like, oh, is Linux support coming at some point? And unfortunately, at the current moment, I think their response is there's not enough people that actually use Linux in order to actually facilitate or to warrant like actually supporting the platform. Let's give this another run to see if this works. Hopefully it works. It's thinking about it, simulating all the physics. Oh, and there you go. So you can see the little spring bouncing the prism up and down, and you can control like how tight the spring is. Like I said, how many coils it has, the length of the spring itself, and I think one of the cool things is just all the technical blogs that they've posted on in terms of the work that they've done using physics. And yeah, let's see. Let's see if I can go a little bit further and switch over to. Let me pause sharing again. Oh, this is weird because I am switching internally. Nope, not that. Stop. I don't know if this is going to. Well, we'll see if this runs. Probably should have tested this out beforehand. That would have been nice. Let's see if Roblox decides that it wants to run today. But yeah, so this is one of the really cool other like showcase games. Like I showed you before with the Paris one. I think this one is also a really good example of just sort of the lighting work and the 3D modeling work that Roblox has. Let's see if I can actually hide the top. Do I need to click on it? Explore. This might take a while.